Welcome to our home. I'm Amy.
I'm Jude.
And I am Will, and this is our 1920 Oakland bungalow.
So when we were house hunting 10 years ago, we fell in love with this street because it has mature street trees, which brings in a lot of bird life. And also there were lots of kids living on the block, playing outside, and we have terrific neighbors. So come on in and let me show you what all we've done. One of the first things that we did as new homeowners was to get solar. I learned that I could get a leased solar system on my roof without spending a dime, so I impulsively jumped on that. Thankfully, it's panned out. I pay way less per kilowatt hour for electricity from my panels than I do from the utility company. For the last few years, I've been highly motivated to get natural gas out of my home. I think of fossil fuels as the Death Star. They are destabilizing the climate, polluting our air, soil, and water, and they also pollute our politics. The fossil fuel industry pumps millions of dollars into political movements that roll back civil rights, rip up the social safety net, and weaken democracy. The world I want to create and live in is the opposite of that. So the first thing that we did when we moved into this house is that we got insulation in the attic, which really helped because this house was very hot in the summer and really cold in the winter. My husband put up these ceiling fans. So we also needed window coverings, and so we chose these shades. They're called honeycomb or cellular shades, and they're actually very insulating. In my process of getting fossil fuels out of my house, one of the last things that I had to do was get a gas fireplace insert switched out with this electric. And we really liked the heat and the ambiance of the gas fireplace. So I bought this electric one, which has a little heating element that blows out of the back. I got this screen made from a Etsy vendor so that it can kind of obscure sort of the tackiness of a fake log. This is what it looks like at night. The unit casts flickering shadows that make it look like flames against the back of the firebox. So as part of electrifying our home, one of the big things that we needed to do is switch out our gas furnace. So we had a central gas-powered forced air furnace, and we just switched it out for a heat pump. Our system looks exactly the same inside the house. For instance, here's the cold air return that was part of the gas system, and now it's just part of the heat pump system. One of the things that you'll probably notice as you're going through my house is that I have a lot of items that I scavenged or got at thrift stores or found on curbs. I love scavenging, and it's part of kind of a zero waste mentality of the world just being full of material goods that should not be wasted and are still full of beauty and life. The very first thing that I did on my electrification journey was I switched out my gas stove. And this happened maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and my gas stove stopped working. And I was, at that time, I was newly reading articles that had to do with studies linking gas stoves to asthma. And my guys have asthma and allergies, and so I was extremely motivated to make my indoor air quality better. But one of the things that I really like is that I really like the look and feel of knobs. So this was the cheapest induction stove that was available at the time. It's a Frigidaire, and it has been fantastic, and I would never go back. You'll notice that I have tiles on the floor and on the backsplash, and both of them are made by Fireclay Tile, which is a California-based company that's a B Corp, and with their tiles, they have a really high degree of recycled content. So this is a heat pump dryer, and heat pump dryers are ventless, so you don't have to vent it to the outside. The only difference is that a heat pump takes a little bit longer to dry your clothes, but it doesn't impact our lives at all. And with a ventless dryer, you have your typical lint trap that you're used to cleaning out, but then there's a second lint trap there at the bottom, and I clean that out. You know, a light will go on, and I'll clean it out every few weeks. This Blomberg set uses very little water and electricity, and I practice load shifting, which means that I try to run the dishwasher and laundry machines only when electricity is the cheapest. For me, that's the middle of the day when my solar panels are cranking. So this is a little clothes drying rack for inside. You know, on sunny days we can use a clothes drying rack outside. But if it's rainy, or let's say there's just one piece of clothing that I don't want to put in the dryer, then this little contraption is a nice little drying rack. So to get natural gas out of my home, I had to switch out my water heater and furnace and get an EV charger. So I needed to make more space in my electrical panel for those additional circuits. However, I did not upsize my electric service to 200 amps. I stayed on 100 amps. My old main panel sends most of the electric load to this new sub panel, which is just physically larger. Eric of All Electric California put my induction stove and EV charger on the same circuit using the simple switch, which is anchored in my crawl space. So if you want to electrify and people are telling you that you need to upsize to a 200 amp panel, take a minute and explore whether that's true. It could be that your electrician just hasn't heard about circuit sharing devices. You might want to pursue the strategy of just getting a bigger sub panel with more room for extra circuits. And I got a rebate for this electrical work because it was in preparation for my heat pumps. So let's go down to the basement where I can show you the heat pumps. This is my heat pump water heater. So this is the tank part, and the heat pump part is actually outside. A lot of other heat pump units just have the heat pump right on top. We didn't have enough clearance for the heat pump on top. These tanks are extremely insulated, so in a power outage, we can still get hot water for quite some time because it's like a giant thermos where it's just keeping water really hot for us. So this is in our crawl space, and this is where our gas furnace used to be, but now we have a heat pump system that both provides heat in the winter and cooling in the summer. And you can see that it also has a HEPA filter so that our indoor air stays clean on smoky or high pollution days. The outdoor part of the system is on the side of the house. And again, for this HVAC system, I got rebates from both Bayron and Tech. Welcome to my backyard. When we first moved in, most of the backyard was paved with concrete. So one of the first things that we did was we went to Oakland's tool lending library and we borrowed a sledgehammer and a wedge, and we broke up all the concrete, and then we used the concrete to form these little retaining walls and also our raised bed. But if you have concrete that you want to get rid of in your own yard, consider using it for retaining walls. All of our backyard plants are on a drip irrigation system, and our next project is installing a gray water system so that we can reuse our laundry wastewater on our plants. In the meantime, I've installed a Flume flow meter to track how much water we're using and from what source. It also detects leaks. EBMUD rebates are available for these. So for our plantings in our backyard, most of the plants that we have are either natives, fruit trees, or edibles. I want to show you my bicycle garage. During COVID, my husband built this bicycle garage because we use our bikes a lot and he commutes on his bike. And also during the early year of COVID, I bought an electric bicycle, a Rad Runner, which is very fun. So thank you so much for visiting my home. I've been doing these green home tours for 3 years now, and every single home that I've visited, I learned something new and I got inspired by something that the homeowner did. So I really hope that by seeing what I've done with my home, that you also get inspired to do some of these things.